Welcome to So That Reminds Me, Reminder Publishing's bi-weekly podcast discussing Western Mass news. My name is Dennis Hackett.
And I'm LeBel.
And we'll be your host for today's episode.
On this week's episode, we are sitting down with Marianna Litovich, founder and executive director of All Our Kids, to talk about some of the work they do in honor of Foster Care Awareness Month.
So Lauren, we're back again for another episode. How are things going with you?
Things are going well. Looking forward to Memorial Day weekend, a long weekend this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We have some exciting things coming up. Last week we went the Reminder, the whole company went bowling. That was fun.
My team won, by the way.
Yeah, it's not a good day for me. And then next week we have a reminder night at the Yard Goats in Hartford, so that'll be fun as well. So exciting things happening.
Yeah. And then some of the stuff we've been working on yesterday, Chris and I went to the Dine Springfield Restaurant Week tasting, and that was a fun experience. So basically what the Restaurant Week is going to be is a bunch of local businesses in Springfield that are going to be participating. Mm-hmm. Some are going to be having special menus, and it's going to be an opportunity to try out some new food at places that you love or maybe discover something new. I know I was blown away when I tried Punjabi tadka yesterday, which is like Indian food.
Never heard of that.
And it was like chicken masala with a garlic naan and rice, and it was incredible.
That sounds delicious.
And then another great one was over at the Student Prince. They were doing potato pancakes. I think they did them at the Big E last year at the media taste that we went to, and they were just as good here. And they had like, it's going to sound weird, but there was like it tasted like there was like some kind of apple pie like type of on top of it. I don't know, but it was really, really good. But
was there anything you tried that you did not like?
No, everything I tried was good. One thing that I did want to mention too is after everything, Nosh had like a little dessert table set up. Ooh. So they had like peanut butter and jelly bites, brownies, all kinds of stuff. I went for the peanut butter and jelly bite, of course, but it was really good. So there was awesome. A lot to check out, which is fun. Yeah.
And when is Springfield Restaurant Week?
So that's going to run from June 6th to the 15th. And if you go to Dine Springfield's website and their socials, you'll be able to see the participating businesses, and any types of specials. You can see like when you go, it'll show all the businesses, and then some will have like a special menu you can click, and so it'll tell you what's new there.
Awesome. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, should be plenty of places to check out for it. So. And then another thing you might have noticed in our papers is we started doing these monthly bios, which are kind of month by month based. So like this month we're doing Jewish American Heritage Month along with Asian and Pacific Islander Month. Yep.
Yeah, and then for June it's Pride Month, so we will have that. Each week we feature a different person in all the editions, so it's highlights a specific person, just a quick little bio to talk about themselves. Possibly the work they do, but how their heritage has like shaped them into the person that they are today.
Yeah, so. It's really about who these people are and what they're doing. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty the first couple weeks trying to figure out how these exactly were going to look, but now they take up about half a page, and I think they look really good. Awesome. So, yeah, you get to learn a bit more about some of the people that you might, live with or know in your communities and everything. So. Yeah. And then before we dive into this episode, I did kind of want to also mention that Chris is a board member with All Our Kids. He didn't really have any part in this episode, but we did want to kind of make the transparency notice that he is a part of that board. But I think with that, we'll get into our interview. We are here with Marianna Litovich. And so, Marianna, you are the founder of All Our Kids. So can you tell us a little bit about the nonprofit organization?
Sure. I am the founder of All Our Kids, although we had a 5-person founding board. Mm-hmm. So I was one of a few people who founded the organization in 2017. And everybody who founded the organization or was part of that effort was a foster parent or an adoptive parent in Western Massachusetts. And felt like, wow, there's really no community out there to support other foster and adoptive families. And because of that, families are kind of burning out and feeling like, they don't know how to navigate the system. The other folks in their lives really don't understand what the journey and process is. So we felt really committed and compelled to start a nonprofit after we actually had a Facebook group. It all started with a little Facebook group. And it grew and grew with lots of families who were all over Western Mass, and we're all feeling similarly to us, like isolated, alone, just kind of out there floating in the sea of uncertainty that is foster care. And so that was really the impetus to start this organization, to bring people together, to create that community and village that everybody needs, that every family needs, every parent, but especially parents who are at the mercy of the child welfare system.
Mm-hmm. So I guess kind of how has your organization grown and evolved since founding it?
It's been pretty incredible to think about how it's grown. In 2017, when we founded, we were just a group of people who were trying to bring together another group of people. And we had a couple of events during those first couple of years where we would go have a picnic at the park. Obviously, we had our Facebook group, which was growing. But now we have, I guess it's 8 years later, if I'm doing the math correctly, we have a large community center in Holyoke where we house our free store, the AOK Community Closet, which gives away 30,000 items a year to hundreds of families, all for free, all donated from the community or from local businesses, all new or like new. And any foster adoptive family in the region who needs anything can come to us and get their needs met either through the store and concrete needs. We also have a lot of support programs. So we have a resource and support hub with over 20 local partners, including DCF, to help families access the resources they need in a timely way, in an efficient way, without wait lists, so they can just go and do that. And then we still have our events. So we bring the community together a few times a year. And we do a lot of peer mentorship. So we do a lot of folks reaching out to us and saying, oh goodness, this is really hard. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to access that. I don't know what this means. Why is a probation officer coming to my house? Which happens in every single case, even when you have an infant. And I was like, what did my infant do? I remember thinking that the first time. I was like, how can my infant be on probation? But no, they are a representative of the court, and they come to check. But, if people don't understand that, then they don't understand that. So we help folks navigate not just the DCF system and the child welfare system, but the court system, the legal process, and really the emotional turmoil and the emotional journey that the uncertainty of being a foster parent is just the definition of it.
Right. You briefly mentioned that all our kids do host community events. What types of community events? And do you have any upcoming ones?
Yeah. So every year we have at least 4 events that are just for AOK families. So just for foster and adoptive families in Western Mass to get together. These are social events, roller skating, a picnic at the park. We have a very big holiday party at the end of the year where we give every child a number of gifts and every family gifts. In the fall, we take our families to the farm and do fall activities at the farm. So we estimate that we have about 2,000 people who attend those events throughout the year. Those events are just for our families, so they're not open to the public. We do occasionally have opportunities for the public to join us we recently had an open house at our community center. We sometimes do a spring fling event, which is really an opportunity to thank nature for the end of winter in New England and do some spring activities, but then also let folks know about who we are, what we do, and what's happening in foster care.
That's great.
And then kind of speaking more broadly about foster care, does your organization help people become foster parents, or is it more helping with resources once they've become?
Yeah, that's a great question because we often are asked, how can I become a foster parent? What's involved? And we're happy to answer those questions, but we do not license families. So that's done by the state and other contracted agencies. And we do not place children in foster homes. So we don't have any part of that, very messy state bureaucracy process. We also don't contract with the state. We don't receive any funding from the state, and we don't have any formal relationship with DCF. So no, we do not help people become foster parents insofar as we don't, provide the classes or do the licensing, but we certainly do explain to folks what the process entails, guide them to the right agencies that might meet their needs in terms of going through that process, explain to them, it's not you, it's them. It really is a crazy process, and hold their hand through it. But primarily, once those folks are licensed, even if they don't have a child in their family yet, then they are eligible to participate in any of our programs.
And what's the difference between foster care and adoption? I feel like sometimes people can get those lines crossed a little bit. There can be some confusion there.
I think that's a really important question. I have adopted 3 times through foster care, but I'm very careful to tell folks that foster care is not an adoption agency. And in fact, when somebody adopts a child through foster care, if they're not related to that kid, if they have no relationship to that family where the child comes from, that's kind of a failed process. Foster care is designed to return a child who has been abused or neglected to that family, the family they came from, after that family has become rehabilitated or after those parents have addressed the issues that are underlying that abuse or neglect. So foster care is the process by which children are placed into a safe temporary home while their parents are unable to care for them. And that really is the purpose of the system. The purpose of the system is to keep a child safe, keep them connected to their birth family as much as possible during that time. So kids will have weekly visits, at least, with their family, and then provide services to that family, to those parents, so that they can be in a better position to then reunite with their children. Now, does that happen every single time? No. That's best case scenario, and it does happen. Second best case scenario is that a child, either during the time that they're in foster care or if their parents are not able to welcome them home, they then go live with a relative or somebody they know. So an aunt, an uncle, grandparent, sometimes even a teacher or a coach or somebody from their church, a family friend, anybody that already is a known person to that child is much, much, much preferred to somebody like me who, a child is just going to show up on my doorstep and they've never met me before. That's not ideal. So some of those folks who have that previous relationship with that child will adopt the child if they need adoption. All children deserve a permanent legal family. When neither of those is possible, then a child goes to a home where folks are not related to them, where they don't know them, where literally they do just show up on a stranger's doorstep. And it's not ideal, but it certainly is a necessity sometimes. And so foster care is when that family helps that child, keeps that child safe, treats that child as their own because they are in that family, as long as they need it. And sometimes, it's actually a very minority amount of cases, that child will need to be adopted or will be eligible for adoption, will be open for adoption, free for adoption by somebody they don't know. So it's not the ideal situation, but it does happen sometimes. And so, like I said, in 3 times I have fostered a child who then needed adoption, although one of those times was the sibling of my first child. So they did have somebody in our home who did have a connection to them. So that is also still considered a kinship placement. So somebody they know before, because they're related. So that's the difference. And although there are plenty of people who adopt through foster care, that's not the primary goal of the system.
Okay. And then kind of speaking broadly about foster care, how big of a need is it in Western Mass? And then kind of specifically with what you do, how many families do you help each year typically?
So I think it's kind of heartbreaking and mind-boggling, honestly, to learn about these statistics, because we have almost 2,000 kiddos in Western Massachusetts, roughly in the 4 Western counties, who are in foster care currently. Whether they're in foster care with a relative or with somebody they don't know, doesn't matter. They're in foster care, and certainly we have hundreds of families who have adopted through foster care who are out in the community. Those numbers are a little bit harder to find because DCF doesn't keep track of them. So 2,000, almost 2,000 kids in Western Massachusetts. There are over 9,000 kids across the state. There are hundreds of thousands of kids across the country. It's a serious problem, and it's a really significant need. And my biggest concern in our Commonwealth is that in Western Massachusetts, we have about a quarter of the kids in care. It's the same in a place like Boston. Boston also has about a quarter of the kids in care. But Boston also has a quarter of the population of the state, whereas in Western Massachusetts, we have less than 10% of the population of the state. So it's a lot harder to find and keep families who are able to take care of these children than it is in a more populated area. So we are overburdened in Western Mass by the number of kids in care. And so any family who, reaches the end of their rope and is like, I can't do it anymore, I'm going to step back, is a much greater loss for us than it is in a place like Boston or Worcester, because there's just more people to replace those families who are leaving. So we feel like our role is really to make sure that the families who have made that commitment are well supported, are part of a community, are part of a village, so they can maintain that commitment longer than if we weren't there. That's what we're hoping to do.
Okay. And then I guess before we continue with questions, we're going to take a little ad break.
We get it. You're busy, but you want to be connected to your local community. If you're not reading The Reminder, Western Mass's free weekly newspaper, you're missing out on the heartbeat of your town. Stay in the loop with all the latest buzz, from local stories to community updates and exciting events. It's all in The Reminder. Just log on to thereminder.com and dive into the hometown news you love. To subscribe to receive The Reminder at your home, call 413-788-1316. Don't miss a beat. Your town, your stories, your community for over 60 years. The Reminder. We are hometown news.
Summer's heating up in Western Mass, and the next issue of Prime is your ultimate guide. From concerts and festivals to car shows and getaways, we've got everything from the 4th of July to the Big E covered. Our RV expert shares free camping tips. AAA helps you plan that next big family trip. And our travel writers set sail with Holland America. Oh, and the photo contest? It's back! And if you're an advertiser looking to help people add a little sizzle to their summer, contact sales manager Scott Green at 525-6695.
Okay, so we are back. So what can you tell us about All Our Kids' most recent awareness campaign that kicked off earlier this month?
Yeah, it's been really great. It's been really great for me doing the media tour and talking to folks like you and getting to share our message on the radio, on TV. This is the first time that we've really made this big effort for raising public awareness. We're a very small organization. We have a few part-time staff, but we do a lot, and we do a lot for our families. So we haven't really had the bandwidth and the capacity to lean into that third part of our mission, which is to raise awareness. So in May, we kicked off, obviously in the beginning of May, we kicked off our Foster Care Awareness Month campaign with a big media open house at our community center. We had lots of media folks there. We had representatives from the government, businesses, and really wanted to let folks know that we're here and that we have lots and lots of opportunities for the public to support us and to become involved. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have any state funding, so we will not take any money from the state, will not take any money from DCF, and that keeps us independent. It keeps us, not beholden to any state agency telling us what to do, which is really nice because then I can come on shows like this and say, hey, there's a big problem going on. And, DCF doesn't have to slap my wrist, which they used to do when I was involved with DCF. So that was the first, big push. And this is the first time that we've done all of this media just to let folks know that this is happening. I think, we have foster children in every town in Western Mass, every town and city across the Commonwealth. And a lot of people don't know that there are children in foster care in the same classrooms that their kids are in certainly in the same schools, on their street. There's foster kids everywhere, unfortunately. And it's really important to us that we let the public know about what's going on and let the public know that there are so many opportunities to support these children by supporting the families who are caring for them. So if people care about foster care, and I think everybody should care about foster care because these are the future adults of our society, then there are a lot of opportunities to make a difference. And it doesn't mean that you have to open your home to a child in foster care because that's not appropriate or right for everybody. And it doesn't mean that you have to seek out a child to adopt through foster care because certainly that's not appropriate or right for everybody. But through our organization and others like it, there are lots of opportunities to become involved, to volunteer, to make donations, to raise awareness. And that is what we're hoping to get the message out about this month.
Great. And then I know you kind of touched on the new space in Holyoke. So what do you kind of offer from the space, and how has it been able to expand what you do already?
It's been really great. It's a little overwhelming because it's a really big space. And we sort of, our thinking going into it is we will grow into it. But, sometimes when you're going to grow into something, there's a little bit of growing pains to figure out how you're going to handle it all. So it's another point of growth for our organization. Prior to this, we had a retail space in Agawam, which was wonderful and lovely, but it only housed our retail space. Now we have space for families to gather. We have a play space for kids. We have a lounge with coffee and tea and snacks and a place for, parents to sit and chat. We have space for our offices. So everybody who works at AOK has space and we can work together instead of working virtually over Zoom or renting or borrowing space from the library or going to a coffee shop. Not that those things are not, fun and wonderful, but when you have to rely on them, it can get a little bit old. So now we have offices and a space for our team to work together. And we have lots of space for workshops and trainings and to provide that resource to not only our families, but to the public as well. So we're really growing into our community center and building it as we go. Creating what we had a vision about years ago, which is kind of a one-stop shop for families to come and know each other, know the system, and know what we offer and get whatever it is that they need to maintain that commitment.
And before you briefly touched upon the community closet, could you talk a little bit more about that and who has access to that and what exactly it is?
Absolutely. So when you walk into the community closet, the AOK community closet, it looks like a kid's consignment store. It looks like, any kid's store that you might go to, but we have clothes available for newborns to adults because there are kids in foster care who are adults. All three of my older kids are taller than me. And we have games and toys and stuffed animals and luggage, bags, books, arts and crafts supplies, basically anything that a child or family might need. We accept it as a donation from the community, and we only accept items that are new or in like new condition. So we get either things that folks find in their closet, often with tags still on them. And I know I went recently through my closet and found a bunch of stuff. I was like, oh, right, never worn that. So then those folks will bring it to us, and we'll be able to provide it to families, or businesses will donate inventory that they don't need or that they want to donate, and we'll make that available to our families. So we get those donations. We have about 1,200 square foot retail space, and you walk in, you grab a basket, you go shopping. Except when you come up to the checkout, we ring you up, but you don't pay anything. So foster and adoptive families get whatever it is that they need for free. And primarily, our resource is designed for families who are getting a new child, a new placement into their home. And sometimes a lot of families are set up for any age. They have bins of clothes sorted by age, because you don't know necessarily who's going to come tomorrow, who's going to come tonight, and you want to be prepared. But you can't always be prepared for everything. And so we are available for families to come on an emergency basis if they have an emergency placement that child needs clothes, hygiene products, diapers, formula, any of those things that you might need right away, we have available. But we also are open to any family who's involved in foster care or who is adopted through foster care. And sometimes it's just a social thing. People come and hang out at the store when we're open. Kids might get to pick out a couple toys or whatever, but they really just come and hang out. So that's the AOK Community Closet.
And so when is the community closet open?
Right now we are open Thursdays and Saturdays or anytime by appointment. Okay. So if families have an urgent need that can't wait until we're open, then we're happy to meet them there and give them access to whatever they need.
Okay. And then do you think the fostering community has kind of changed now that there are more resources out there, like what you guys do at All Our Kids or in other organizations like that?
I don't know if the fostering community has changed. My hope and the feedback that we receive and the data that we collect tell us that the foster community in Western Massachusetts does feel more connected, and we feel like, we know each other better and we're part of a community, whereas before people felt really isolated and not knowing each other. I mean, I spent 8 years as a foster parent in South Hadley without knowing any other foster parents in South Hadley. Does that mean there weren't any other foster parents in South Hadley? Absolutely not. There was just no mechanism to connect us. So now folks know others who are going through the same thing in their towns, in their communities. And that's a pretty significant change from what the experience was like, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, when we were still kind of gaining steam. And I think the state has made a really significant effort, both, I think, positive and negative, to really push kinship placements. So to really find known families for kiddos, again, grandparents, aunts, uncles, other relatives, or other folks who kids already know. And so there is a somewhat less of a burden on the families who are kind of cycling through kids, who are just providing a soft landing pad for a very short period of time. And that is good, I think. So the landscape is evolving and changing, but when you're at the mercy of a state system, nothing happens very quickly. And so the experience of being a foster parent now is pretty similar to how it was, 15, 20 years ago when I started. Not that much has changed. And I don't know that there really are more resources. In the time that I've been in Western Massachusetts, AOK is the only new thing that has come about for the community. And even statewide, I'm not sure that there is much new. That said, foster families rely on a lot of resources in the community that aren't foster care specific. So children in foster care need educational advocacy and support, mental health advocacy and support, legal support, all kinds of things that other families also use. So we are able to partner with those services and provide what families need. So I don't know necessarily that the landscape has really changed, but I think in the time that we have been around, we have helped bring people together, not just foster and adoptive families, but other resources in the community. So we also, for example, started the Western Mass Foster Care Coalition. So we meet on a every other month basis, and we bring professionals to the table. So anybody whose livelihood or work touches the lives of children in foster care, we come together, we talk about what's going on, we talk about how we can partner better, how we can help families navigate systems better, and how we can meet needs.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of your resources, AOK Connect on Facebook. So that's a private group, and it's open only to foster and adoptive families.
That's right.
So how can people join if they would like to?
So if they are a foster or adoptive parent in Western Massachusetts, they just go to AOK Connect. You can search for it on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And they just ask to join. And there are some questions to answer. And we have some volunteer administrative folks who verify eligibility to join our community. And then they are welcomed into our community. And we have right now about 550 folks in that group, very active every day. And mostly folks are saying, hey, this is what is happening. Do you have any advice? Do you have any suggestions? Is this normal? Where can I go? And it's really nice to be able to ask things in real time and often get, answers to your questions immediately from somebody who has been there.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that pretty much covers all the questions we have. Is there anything else you wanted to add about All Our Kids and what you're doing?
Other than, we have been really focused on our community, on foster and adoptive families. And again, I really think this is a societal concern. This really is something that impacts everybody in society. And I know there are so many people out there who have said to me, oh, I've always thought about being a foster parent, or I want to do that someday. And again, it isn't the right choice for everybody. And sometimes I am told or I'm asked, hey, can you talk to my sister? Because she's having trouble having a baby and I think she'd make a great foster parent. I'm like, absolutely not. Mm-hmm. No, I most certainly will not talk to your sister about that, because that's not my place. And it isn't, it's not a consolation prize. It's a service that you are providing for another family, another human being. But it isn't for everybody. And it's really important to me that everybody knows that if you want to do something to support these families, come to us and do something to support these families. Whether you're volunteering, whether you're donating, whether you're just learning more and raising awareness, there is a place at our table for everyone. And it is going to take everyone being involved to make a difference.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks.
Was a very enlightening interview.
I'm so glad to be here. Yeah, I'm so glad to have been here and really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Every month, Reminder Publishing's Go Local magazine features the best Western Mass and Northern Connecticut businesses, with articles on new storefronts, coffee shops, restaurants, and more. Go Local magazine is your resource to find the best businesses to frequent in the area. Go Local also features original recipes, how-to pages on festive crafts, a listing of places to go, and experiences to enjoy over the course of the month, and so much more. Pick up Go Local magazine at hundreds of businesses, banks, gas stations, and restaurants all over Western Mass and Northern Connecticut. Or check out Go Local magazine at thereminder.com.
Looking to age well and live smart? Savvy After 55 is your guide. From fitness and nutrition to staying social and engaged, Savvy has the tips to help you thrive. It's also your go-to guide for caregiving, veteran services, job training, advocacy, and more. Savvy After 55, because that's what you are, and we're here to help. And are you an advertiser who wants to reach our Savvy readers? Contact sales manager Scott Green at 525-6695.
And that wraps another episode of So That Reminds Me. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again with another episode in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for listening to So That Reminds Me, produced by Western Massachusetts news source Reminder Publishing. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, find the latest news at thereminder.com, and follow Reminder Publishing on Instagram at Reminder Publishing, on X at The Reminder MA, and on Facebook. Reminder Publishing, we are hometown news.